This weekend, Friday, October 10th through Sunday, October 12th, Venus is in opposition to Saturn retrograde in Pisces. I'm not saying that this is an easy breezy transit. It isn't. But I don't think it's necessarily challenging either. I actually think there are some really constructive and beneficial ways to utilize a transit like this. So I'm excited to speak about it with you today. Let's go ahead and get this on the chart. I like to highlight the transits on the chart in the hopes that that clarifies what we're talking about a little bit. And also that if you're studying astrology, that following along with this is helpful for you. But I also hope that if you just want to listen to the astrology and you're not so much worried about the chart side of it, that this format works for you too. That's always my intention, for it to work with everyone wherever you are in your study of astrology. So, okay, we have Venus here in Virgo, opposing Saturn in Pisces. This is exact on Saturday, but we're really feeling this all weekend. So I think the fact that Saturn is retrograde is an important part of this story as well. It's why I'm calling it restructuring instead of structuring. So that Saturn retrograde is important too. You know, this is Saturn's final return to Pisces. Saturn will go direct in late November. So Saturn brings structure and responsibilities and boundaries and a plan and seriousness to whatever is involved here. And relationships need that. Finances need that. Aesthetics need that. It might not always be pleasant to find these limits, to come up against these limits, these structures, these plans, these boundaries, these responsibilities, but they are actually a very necessary part of finding a way to actualize these things in the world. So Venus and Saturn aspects do not have to be negative. They actually can really be about finding a way. Yes, they're about finding the limit or taking responsibility or setting a boundary or sometimes saying no, but that's sometimes what you need in order to hear where the yes is. Okay, so we have these two different planets opposing each other. And when we have that, it suggests that that you might feel this weekend like you're coming up against something, like there's something challenging you in some way. And it could very well be a person, but it doesn't have to be. It could be a circumstance, or it could be sort of two people uh, playing this out between each other. But what this signifies, what this suggests, is that Venus associated uh, ideas are coming up against Saturn retrograde in Pisces ideas. And I should say Venus in Virgo, which really wants to serve and to take things seriously and to do a good job. So even more reason why these are harmonized well together. So anyway, this signifies these two different energies sort of conflicting with one another. But like I said, there's a way in which Venus interacting with Saturn, conflicting with Saturn in that way, kind of takes things down, brings things down into the world to be actualized in a different way. We can have all the values and desires of Venus without Saturn there to say, okay, not this, but this, not now, but here's when. You can do it in this way, but not that way. It's like those dreams and those fantasies and those visions can't quite land. So, we're talking about Venus here, which is about relationships and also finances and our aesthetic sense, the way things look, beauty around us, our values and desires. And Saturn is bringing a sense of limits, boundaries, responsibilities, seriousness, or structure to those themes. So, one example of this might be about, you could come up this weekend into a situation where you're sort of drilling down into the structure of a long term relationship, maybe a romantic relationship, for example, or a parent child relationship, something that's quite long standing, and sort of figuring out something about the structure of it. Or providing or accepting some sort of boundary in some way that the relationship really needs now. Um, it could also be financially related, let's say. There could be a situation where you're realizing what you need to do financially, where exactly it is you need to go, or, there is also sort of this no energy associated with it. I could see this being like, well, we can't really afford this, but we can afford that. And it's the same with boundaries. It's the same with saying no in relationships. It's like, well, I can't really do this, but then that gives the other person an opportunity to say, okay, I understand that, but can you do this? And then through that, we find a way. Or even with aesthetics, if you're thinking about what you want to do with the way something looks, you might say, well, I know I don't want to cut my hair short. I don't know what I want to do with it, but I know I don't want to cut it short. And then there's a little structure for you to play with. Such a silly example. But yeah, I could see, some sort of structure or boundary being set in a relationship, just structure of relationships being talked about, structure of aesthetics being talked about, finances, finding the limits somewhere, um, understanding and structuring our values and what it is we really want. That could be a very powerful part of it too. And Venus in Virgo is very committed, very loyal, very discerning, wants to help, wants to serve, wants to connect from that place. So I feel that this Venus energy in particular is well suited for an opposition to Saturn, because I feel like Venus in Virgo is more willing to be like, okay, yeah, tell me the structure, whatever it is I need to know in order to move forward. I want to keep moving forward. So, this suggests that there are different sides of us that feel this way this weekend. We are realizing our desires and what we're committed to and where we're loyal and where we want to serve, and tapping into relationship energy and financial energy, perhaps, or aesthetics, but also sort of coming up against a limit in some kind of way. And because we're talking about Saturn retrograde in Pisces, where Saturn has been for quite a while, we just have we're in our really our last few weeks of Saturn retrograde in Pisces here, with Saturn stationing direct in late November. This probably isn't something brand new. That's why I said more of a long-term relationship. Saturn's been in Pisces since March of 23. So March or April of 23, I'm almost certain. I don't have my dates in front of me for that, but off the top of my head, please correct me in the comments if I'm wrong about that. But this has been a long process. And so it might be some sort of restructuring of these kinds of things. It's not a brand new issue. I do think it could be connected to the eclipse story too. We had eclipses in September. And we are just after this Aries full moon a couple days ago, out of that eclipse season. But these planets are really right on the axis of those eclipses. In Pisces, Virgo, at the end of the signs, excuse me, Sorry about that. Live broadcast here. um, Live recording, I should say. Um, anyway, uh, I think that this could be connected to whatever was going on during that eclipse time. September was a very busy month and a lot moved and changed. And I wonder if somehow this could be connected. Finding this structure now is connected to some story that was moving for us in September and August, even late August. And I almost even wonder if it could sort of be informed by even just like I remember earlier in the summer when Venus was conjunct Jupiter in in Cancer, and we have been sort of working with a bit of a sextile. It's finished now, but Venus was sextiling that Jupiter just recently, and I wonder if that was communicating that story. I think it was a busy summer, busy few months. And now to have this restructuring, this sort of the serious tone to it is why I wrote the word serious. It's not, like I said, it's not light, it's not easy necessarily, but it's potentially quite constructive as well. Sometimes things that we want can really get off the ground with a Venus Saturn opposition. Um, yeah. So I want to go ahead and check my chat now. I actually am not seeing anything in the chat. But I want to thank Lucy and Virginia, who are new members of this channel. I really, really appreciate your support. Any support, whether it's through memberships or through supers. And I really appreciate everyone who sent supers as well. CJ and there were a few people, I can't mention them all by name, but definitely want to thank Lucy and Virginia, are my new priority members by name. Um, but any contribution like that is really allowing me to put more time into the channel, which is such a wonderful thing. And yeah, I received during my last live stream a few days ago my first super stickers and these animated super chats and these wonderful things, and I didn't know what was going on. But I really, really appreciated them and learned later about, how they do have a bit of monetary value to them, which is much, much appreciated. The more this channel grows, the more I'm able to give my time to it. So I'm not seeing anything in the chat today, which is great. No questions, which is just fine. I wanted to, I will attach some videos here that you also might enjoy if you enjoyed this video. And yeah, thank you for being here. I hope you have a really wonderful weekend. I might just take a minute to look at some of these features. I feel like I'm still sort of learning how to use these features. So I just wanted to check out some things before I go. Oh, good morning. Happy birthday. Happy solar return to this wonderful, an old crone. It's your birthday today. Happy birthday. Happy solar return, as we say in astrology. You know, there's something about a solar return where the idea of making a wish on your birthday is really well supported astrologically, right? The planets are a little bit, they're in their return position. The sun is in that return position to where it was when you were born. The sun has come all the way back around to that same point in the sky. And so it's a great time to really think about where you're going in the year ahead. And it might be a little bit, it's auspicious time for doing that in terms of bringing those things in the year ahead. So I always love the blowing out a candle thing. And then also just the fire and the air sort of like sending something up. It's so much more of a potentially of a spiritual ritual, I feel like, than we realize. We can just use it uh, as a fun birthday light thing too, of course, and most of us move through it that way, and I do too. But just saying, there's some interesting astrological significance to thinking about where you want to go in the year ahead on your solar return on your birthday. So I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much for being here.